the processional entry, the family will walk behind the coffin and will be seated at the front of the chapel. Music is provided by Baron O'Day, the funeral directing company, and I will have copies of ceremony readings and eulogies in my person in case of an emergency. Good morning, family and friends. Please be seated. Today we commence. I would like to remind you to switch off your mobile phones. Thank you. On behalf of the Smiths family, I thank you for your presence and support here today. They have been overwhelmed with the generosity and outpouring of love and support and friendship with so many. It is greatly appreciated. Through spending time with the family, sons Adrian, Christian, Eric and daughter Tempest, and their partners Mary, Georgia, Frank and Tom, Harry touched many lives through his simple ways, spark and joy for life. Tempest said, "Dad was a salty old dog. Whoever encountered him was thirsty to spend time with him, to share in his stories and verve for life." It seems Harry had a gift for conversation, hundreds of them, many with people he encountered for the first time. He left them wanting more, and new friendships were formed. Today we say goodbye to Harry, and thank you. Thank you for the gift of time. It has been an honour to have walked beside you. Harry lost his wife and partner in crime, Marion, 5 years ago. He said that losing Marion was like taking his breath away. Every night before he went to bed, Harry would read a poem to unite himself with Marion. Would like to invite Eric to read this poem. "Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep" by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Today I have the honour of reading to you a eulogy written by Harry's children. Harry George Smith was born in the summer of 1945 to Betsy and George Smith in Perth, WA. Affectionately known as Harry, he was their only child. Harry had an idyllic childhood growing up in Fremantle. From a baby, he spent many years aboard his father's fishing boat. It was there his deep love of fishing was established, and a strong bond between father and son was united. Harry and George were two peas in a pod. Poor Betsy didn't have a chance trying to wangle a productive education out of Harry. He was destined for the sea. However, Harry loved his mother and spent most evenings playing cards and games rather than reading and doing schoolwork. Harry attended CBC in Fremantle and made many firm friends, of whom many are here today. Although Harry had no interest in schooling, he was fond of sports and his mates. Harry was a strong swimmer and captained the school in his final year. He was also captain of the boats and rowed for the college to win the cup in 1972. Harry was a bit of a lad, and many a young lady was always chasing after him. He never took any of them seriously, until one day on Port Beach, a young lady caught his eye. Marion Gray, an Italian immigrant with her striking dark looks, captured Harry's heart. He said he knew instantly he was going to walk down the aisle with Marion. He just knew it. Harry knew that further education was not for him. The lure of the sea was calling him. He worked hard alongside George and became a knowledgeable and professional fisherman. After a very short courtship, Harry and Marion married in Fremantle Church in 1975. They lived with Betsy and George until they found a cute cottage in Solomon Street, Fremantle, where they lived for the rest of their lives, with multiple renovations for their expanding brew that were to come. Life was tough for Marion and Harry. They worked hard. Harry on his beloved fishing boat called Daisy with his dad, and Marion as a factory worker. They both had a strong work ethic and were determined to make their lives successful. It wasn't too long before there was the pitter-patter of little feet. Came as no surprise as Marion and Harry, both being only children, were keen to expand their family as quickly as possible. In 1977, the twins were born, Tempest and Adrian, followed by Christian in 1979 and Eric in 1981. Harry was absolutely besotted with his children. They became the driving force in his life, and he worked very hard to provide the best for them. Harry always put his family first. If there was any assembly or graduation, he was there. Nothing was more important to him than his wife and children. Harry was the heart and soul of every club he belonged to. He had a gift for welcoming you robustly with his warm generosity and kindness. If you were a friend, you were a friend for life. You were part of his extended family. There was no escape. As the years passed, Harry was fortunate enough to retire early. This made way for a new position of Poppy as Tempest, Adrian, Christian and Eric all wed. It wasn't long before grandchildren arrived, Zale, Dylan, Kai and Fletcher. If you think Harry adored his children, his love for one another, the level of his grandchildren, they were the apple of his eye. Friday nights were always at Poppy's and Nuna's. The children would sleep over and be spoilt with delicious treats. That was the tradition. Life was epically wonderful for Harry. He had his fishing, family and friends. However, when Marion passed away suddenly in 2015 from a stroke, part of Harry died with her. Harry was devastated, as if it wasn't for his children and grandchildren, we're not sure he would have survived. Friends rallied around Harry too, and were eternally grateful for the continued love and support showered upon him. Franco was like a brother to Harry, and they shared a very special bond. It was only befitting that Franco was there to support Harry when he took his last breath on this earth aboard Daisy. Lovingly and tenderly, we return his body to the elements from which he came. We acknowledge that Harry lived. We are glad that we saw his face and felt the pressure of his hand. We cherish his friendship and most of all his love. As the music plays, please feel free to come forward and place your own personal memento on the coffin as you say your final farewell. I ask the family to come forward first. I ask you now to please stand as we say our final farewell and goodbye to Harry. You have gathered here today in mourning, in grief and in loss. We have had the opportunity to share moments of Harry's life, the gifts he brought to his family, an extraordinary circle of friends, the richness of his talents for people, connections and language, his sharing of love. As we farewell this man of the world, from the world, let us recall his gifts, his joy, his sparkling personality and his enthusiasm. While the body of Harry will leave us now, we will keep alive in our hearts and joyful memories of a dear father, grandfather and friend. Harry was an icon, an inspiration to all that knew him. We are privileged to have walked with you. Go now and be with your beloved Marion. She is waiting for you. Harry played a significant role in all of his children's lives, and I invite his grandchildren, Zale, Dylan, Kai and Fletcher, to pay a special tribute to their Poppy. I now invite you to take time and reflect while we watch a precious collection of some of Harry's life's experiences that have been put together by his beloved children and grandchildren. The music they have selected while this is being shown is one of Harry's favourite, Unforgettable by Nat King Cole. After the reflection, a beautiful presentation of Harry's life, as Zal told me the other day, Poppy really rocked. We are grateful for the privilege of sharing Harry's life. Harry's journey is now over and a new one has just begun for us without his presence. There is a sacredness in your tears. They are not the mark of a weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues. They are the messages of overwhelming grief, deep contrition and unspeakable love. This was written by Washington Irving. The family appreciate your support here today and now invite you to share in continuing to celebrate Harry with light refreshments in the room next door. I ask that you wait to offer your condolences until the family have left the chapel.